Wow, what an incredible digital duet. That was Kyle Abraham, his reimagining of the Mozart Requiem, an excerpt from a fuller piece featuring A.I.M, beautiful dancers. So I just want to bring on the artist who created this work so we can talk about what they wrought. Kyle Abraham, Bessie Award winner, MacArthur Fellow, and I love that Dance Magazine calls him equal parts power and grace. So Kyle, please join us.
Hey.
Bravo. All right, now we bring on Jlin, the producer and electronic musician who hails from Gary, Indiana. She exploded onto the scene with the album Dark Energy in 2015, and then followed that up with Black Origami in 2018, which made like everyone's best of lists. Jlin, are you in the house?
Hey.
And last but certainly not least, their collaborator, Giles Deacon, the celebrated English fashion designer, creative director, and founder of Giles Deacon Group, Couture Fashion House. And he created those exquisite costumes that we've just seen and is working on the full stage work. And I had the extreme pleasure of seeing his designs for Kyle Abraham's The Runway at New York City Ballet, which just blew my mind. So Giles, lovely to have you join us now.
Hello.
Well, bravi to you all. That was a great, intense, beautiful ride. I just want to start with Kyle and say, why Mozart? How did this whole thing even get started? Let's start with you, Kyle.
Sure. Yeah, I have always just been drawn to seemingly depressing themes, but I had been in conversation with John Nakagawa from the Mozart Festival for some time, especially after he saw a work of mine called Pavement at Lincoln Center Out of Doors, and he approached me to see if I would ever be interested in doing something for his festival. And thinking about Mozart's work, of course, I would be drawn to the drama in some way, and that's kind of what got me onto his Requiem in particular. Yeah, I guess I'll start there and kind of see where the conversation takes us. But I was mostly drawn to the Requiem just based on its themes and its own history. There's a lot of that I think I'm naturally drawn to as someone who has a certain type of fixation around death in some way. Not to be super dark, but just is what it is.
And how did this collaboration happen? Did you start thinking about Mozart Requiem and then bring on Jlin or Giles, or how did that process come together for the three of you?
Yeah, I guess I'll start this one and then
and then we'll let them jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a host of different things. Maybe the year before I started working on this project, I had been really obsessed with Jlin's music and even made a piece, a smaller piece on our repertory, A.I.M's repertory, to her music, a piece that we call Show Pony. And I was teaching all of my classes at UCLA to her music. It was working for me from like the beginning of class all the way to the end of class, the dancer walking out the door. So I already kind of had her just in my heart. And when aspects of this Requiem were coming to fruition with the Mozart Festival, I was like, okay, well, if we're not working with a live orchestra, I really think we should like think about what we can do with this music and how can we find new ways to honor it and for us to kind of like find an entry point into it. And that's how and when we reached out to Jlin. And around, ironically, the same time that we started getting into the rehearsal for this work, I had just finished working with Giles on The Runaway for New York City Ballet and had just such a wonderful experience working with him that I wanted to make sure that we could find other opportunities to work together. He, around that same time, designed a costume for me to wear for solo that I did the following year. And that was already a time when we were already in the rehearsal process for this work. So that's kind of, I think, part of the initial story.
And Jlin, let's bring you in here. talk about these themes of death and rebirth that were motivating Kyle as he was thinking about Mozart Requiem. What occurred to you when he first approached you with this idea?
Well, first of all, Kyle is just such a gem of a person to work with. So my first just initial response to it, I was thrilled because I was just like, oh wow, like I'm always excited, just honestly with, any work that I know, especially I love dance. So choreography for me is just like I'm already pulled in. So, so when Kyle, who is just brilliant in his work, asked me to collaborate with them, I was just very much on board. And the only thing I was worried about is I was like, oh God, not that I wasn't afraid of the collaboration part. It was just the part of, for me, I'm always overstressing myself as far as, is this going to meet where I know it could go, and is it going to, and that we're on the same page. So that's always usually my first concern. So what I do is my method to make that, to keep it like safe, but also at the same time expand as much as I can, just knowing that I guess when to contract and when to expand, is I'll create, like typically what I'll do is create a demo, like a 1-minute demo, and then I would send it to Kyle, and then Kyle would yay or nay it, and we would just go from there. So once the 1-minute demo was done, he's like, yes, and then I'll just go and finish the rest of the track. So that was our method of work.
And let's stick with that just for a minute before we bring Giles in. So the track that we heard is based on the 7th movement of the Mozart Requiem, the Lacrimosa.
Yes.
Why did that movement kind of speak to you, and how did you decide which 2 samples to pull out for the track that you provided to Kyle?
I'm intuitive. So intuition is everything for me creatively. It has, because I feel like I can expand more in intuition versus versus the mechanics of a thing. So it was just more intuitive for me. And then especially I feel like in movement, innovation is everything, and impromptu and the surprise element. So I feel like that's where I was thinking musically, but also in the context of choreography. Yes, it's kind of like I like to be able to, the both sided, the duality of thinking like, I know I don't dance, but if I did, I think to myself, what am I looking for? Do I, the element of surprise, what, bringing that out, that bold, subtle scream, and then the big, the gasp, being able to just really to know when to do a thing and when not to do a thing, but also it just being the element of surprise, because I feel like it's important musically, as well, I think overall artistically.
When you talk about like improvisation and things, Giles, like I feel like your designs have such fantasy and whimsy to them, but yet while you design for like Angelina Jolie and Kate Moss, you have to do something that is infinitely practical in terms of allowing for the movement that Kyle dreams up. And also I know like costumes have to be durable because they have to be sweated in and then washed and then done again. Where do you start? And as you're thinking of this, we do have 2 images of your designs that we can show the audience so we can see kind of inspirations as you go along.
Well, I very much like to work in a very similar way that Jlin was saying, and from that initial kind of guttural instinctiveness, and I think that is extremely important to me. And from the 2 pieces that I worked on with Kyle previously, with you develop a kind of a subconscious kind of dialogue with each other about sending images, sending performances as work in progress, and then mixing them with some initial sound bites and some clips from Jlin. And I got a sense of that spontaneity that I wanted to bring to the party, really. That's ultimately respectful for the dancers and the piece, but brings an element of drama, which is very important, to kind of enable the dancers' characters to really come to the front as well, which is always very important to me. I hate it when things are very kind of tied down, which obviously in ballet is not, and dance is no good. But the reference points that I went to, I always like to kind of look towards a certain aspect of historical references, particularly from the kind of 1780s, 1790s, take some theatrical detailing, recontextualize them, put them in a different context. As a bespoke print I did for it, which was all hand drawn while I was listening to some of the music and watching some of the video clips of the dancers, to get that sense of movement and freedom and life, and to breathe a sense of just sort of energetic joy into the mix. That was, in a nutshell, where I was heading.
And Giles, when we hear Carl talk about the themes of kind of death and the themes that propelled him to play with this work, how did you respond to the idea of a reimagining of the Mozart Requiem, and how did that inform the costumes that you came up with? And then, Jlin, I'd love to ask you that question as well.
Well, I think ultimately for me that within all of the kind of variants of where you can go with it, it's always about beauty for me. And that kind of interpretation of a personal sense of beauty that can be brought to the equation, and as I say, through the kind of materials and the movement and the kind of intricacies of all the elements. You're kind of and I always want to be very conscious that you're part of the puzzle. To make this piece, and it's really exciting to see how all of the elements have come together to see the piece that we've just seen, to see all that, the lighting, the music, obviously the fantastic choreography and the amazing dancers. But it's that really drives me with it.
And Jlin, do you have something you can say about the themes of the work? And I know you said that you work very intuitively. But in terms of thinking about like a Lacrimosa or a Requiem, how that kind of informed the creative choices that you were making as you put the music together?
I feel that I don't really have an answer for that. Because I don't have a I honestly, in all sincerity, I actually like moments like this when I don't have an answer as far as like I can give you a solid definition of what that was. It's just really when you feel a thing, honestly, sometimes it's really just that simple. You feel a thing and and I think I had a lot of moments like that throughout creating, this entire, the pieces. And I also, one thing I did though, too, is I went and watched, I went to YouTube and watched some of Kyle's past work. And I used kind of that as a reference point of the way I wanted to express a thing and how I wanted it to move. So I wasn't per se, I hate to say this, but Kyle was more so my focus. Kyle was actually more so my focus. But I mean, actually, I hate to say, but he really was. So yeah, Kyle was more my focus.
I think there's something beautiful in that. As long as you have the right collaborator. And I love the fact that in this day where we all have to have a snappy, ready answer, you don't give into that because it's not real. So I love that. Well, Kyle, just moving back to the piece that you created with your dancers, can you tell us about Keerati and Jay and the process that you went through to create this excerpt piece for us to see today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I work very collaboratively in every way, really. So with the dancers, we've been working on this project for a good while. Ironically, this section includes another dancer, but we're just kind of like thinking, okay, well, in the context of this film, we can just move forward in duet form. And Jay and Keerati, a lot of the material that you're seeing, some of the choreography are prompts. Some of them are exercises where I give them a word or a series of words, and they have to make a phrase based in order of the letters that I give them. Some of them are phrases like, okay, make a reincarnation phrase, make a death phrase. Then I put these little random inserts of material from my body onto theirs. But that's a kind of nutshell version of the process in some way. And then knowing that in this context, working with Danielle Levy, that in her editing, she has a lot of opportunity to rearrange the order. So as a choreographer, you can be super kind of tight on what the order of the choreography is, and just know that this is a different interpretation of the work in an exciting way. It gives me and viewers an opportunity to see the work remixed yet again. So it's exciting.
Yeah, now you mentioned National Sawdust digital producer Danielle, who's working with the film editor Orestes Sinopoulos on this. And Danielle and Nicole Merritt, who's the senior curator at Sawdust, they were explaining to me how this is really a piece that you created for this purpose. And it's not necessarily like an excerpt, not only because there isn't the third dancer, but you kind of reconceived things that you had already been working on for the Sawdust taping. Can you talk about that, and also what the full arc of the piece is going to be when it's at the mostly Mozart Festival at Lincoln Center and Stanford Live and University of Michigan eventually?
Yeah, more or less. I'm not one for spoilers, so.
Okay. Well, don't reveal what you don't want to reveal.
No, I got you. Yeah, I've had so many great phone calls with Nicole leading up to filming this project. And it really was through some of those conversations that led us to even kind of moving forward with creating this project. And what I was thinking is we could take really just take some of the choreography that was, in essence, part of the larger work and allow it to be reconfigured however it seemed feasible under these kind of constraints of sorts. And working with Giles, I knew, I checked in with him to see, where he was at with costumes, and he had these two with this section in mind. So we moved forward with trying to just highlight these two dancers in particular with this song that I still refer to as track 7 from Jlin, to kind of like think about a way to give a bit of a sneak peek, but for my type of personality that doesn't like to give too much away, it's still saying to an audience, okay, well, this is like some of the world, but it's also not the world. So allowing them to kind of get a taste, but know that the live performance will be a totally different experience altogether. The evening length work is probably a little under an hour, if not an hour in length. It's an ensemble cast of about 10 dancers. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say in the early stages now.
If you peer into your crystal ball, when do you think, assuming everything gets back to normal, people might be able to experience this work?
Well, at the moment, we are still scheduled to premiere it at Stanford in May of 2021.
Great. And Jlin, I think there was a track that you wanted to share with us of another excerpt that you've created for this piece. Can you tell us a little bit about, I think is it track 11? It's track 11 since Kyle's using track 7. This is track 11.
Correct. It's track 11. The reason I have not named the titles yet because I wanted to see the rehearsal in full. So that's why everything's like track 1, track 2. The only track that's actually named is track 3, which is called Ake Bulan. But which is, I think, Kyle, what is that, 7 minute? That's a 7-minute piece though. I think that's the longest one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, track 11 was very, I actually ended up sampling. I used the same sample again. I went back to it because I have always loved, hope I'm pronouncing it right. I think Kyrie, or Curie, I'm not sure, but yeah,
Kyrie.
is it Kyrie? Okay, I
Latin.
love, I always have. So I was like, okay, I have to do this again. And so that's what made me, I was just like, it has always done something to me every time I hear it. So I just felt like I wanted that the last track that I made, I really wanted it to just open up and just be something that was very, like, you know, Giles said, I love spontaneity. So I really wanted it to be spontaneous and then open up into its own world of a thing.
Well, let's hear a little bit of that. I know you said you're not a dancer, Jlin, but it makes you really want to dance listening to this. Giles, when you listen to the music, does that help kind of inform the flow of the lines and the things that you're putting together? And what part of the process are you in terms of designing for these 10 dancers?
Well, I'm a big fan of Jlin's music already. So when I knew that she was involved, when Kyle mentioned it, I was like, brilliant! Wow, that's going to be exciting. So it's music I love and listen to in the studio. So to hear these specific pieces was an absolute joy, and they absolutely evoke an atmosphere, and it's all about telling that story for me, and it's bringing your perspective to add something to the whatever's area you can within to this whole pot of fabulousness to make this production, kind of what it is. From a specific design perspective, we've been designing everything specifically for each person, which kind of may sound surprising in some ways, but it's we got great photographs sent from everybody remotely. Because I'd not met all of the dancers in person. Normally you would kind of meet and do fittings, and it would be a very different process, but obviously not being able to travel to the States has put a certain amount of, kind of different ways of working. So we got some amazing pictures of everybody from being at home on roofs to, outside in the living rooms, bedrooms, you name it. So you get a sense of people's characters from that. So, we then sketch pieces up. Kyle and I have been talking about them, adding pieces, working out how to do it, and and doing it bit by bit. So it's well down the line, very close to completion, which is exciting.
It's really kind of enlivening to see you all coming together despite the circumstances, and then putting something that has such heart and beauty in it. Also, I know, Kyle, for you and your dancers, like, what are you able to do right now in terms of anything, really, given the COVID situation and stuff?
Oh, Lord. They actually right now are in a virtual rehearsal that my rehearsal director is leading. But what we've been able to do at times, especially leading up to this filming, was we've been able to have a small number of dancers together where we can work socially distanced on material. A lot of this material that we were able to use for this film was created, I think in a lot of ways at Jacob's Pillow. We were doing a bubble residency at Jacob's Pillow in November, in the fall. And that was a great opportunity because we could touch and we could see each other and really just interact in a way and breathe. So that was all exciting and inspiring. And it was the first time that the dancers were able to hear Jlin's music, because I was kind of keeping it to myself, and I wanted it to be to have like a really great surprise. I think kind of one thing that started happening is Jay, one of the dancers, I feel like they wanted to be in every section because the music was just so good. people would like leave space for a second, and I'm like, oh, okay, Jay, all right, yeah, go ahead, make that other entrance. And I feel like even myself and my aging body, like I would be listening to the samples she was sending me, and I'd start dancing in my kitchen. I'm like, hey, I gotta be careful. I could break a hip.
Well, thanks to all of you for making this come together and to share with the audience and your beautiful dancers, Kyle. So I just wanted to say that on behalf of National Sawdust, it's been great. I understand that Kyle is a keeper of secrets, a master of surprise, but we got to see a little tidbit of what is being ready to share with the world soon. And I just want to say that National Sawdust, they love to explore dance in ways when they can. And they've done everything from like a small ice rink to Red Rock Ray's dream project, doing a project with Helga Davis, which is one of my favorite things at National Sawdust. And this is like a seed of what's to come, because they're going to do a lot of work in the new season with the body, hope, and technology, they tell me, so we can look out for that. This event was made possible by the Virginia B. Tolman Foundation. So on behalf of National Sawdust and everyone, we just want to say thanks to them. And Kyle, Jlin, Giles, such a pleasure. Stay well and safe. Thank you.
Thank you.